just work like hell. I mean, you just have to put in 80 to 100-hour weeks every week. And I tend to think of things from a sort of physics standpoint, like from a first principle standpoint, what would be the best way to accomplish something? If you're going to create a company, the first thing you should try to do is create a working prototype. You know, everything looks great on PowerPoint.
Let me tell you a story about a man who built an empire so vast he became richer than entire countries. A man who went from being broke and sleeping on his office floor to becoming the richest person on Earth, or, by some estimations, the richest person in the history of the Earth. Yes! I've spent the last 6 months studying Elon in depth. I've read everything I can get my hands on about his life, his mindset, and his business strategy. In this video, I'm going to reveal the exact blueprint Elon used to become the most powerful person on the planet. So grab a pen and get ready to take notes. Let's start at the beginning. Elon Musk wasn't born into wealth. He was raised in South Africa, where he spent his childhood immersed in books and computers. He was obsessed with science fiction, space, and technology.
I read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and it was quite positive, I think, and it sort of highlighted an important point, which is that a lot of times the question is harder than the answer. And if you can properly phrase the question, then the answer is the easy part.
He taught himself computer programming at the age of 12 and even sold his first game, Blast Star, for $500. From his early childhood, we can already learn the first important lesson: never stop learning. Learn as much as possible, about as many things as possible. Read, read, read.
Biographies, I think, are really always, really interesting read. I think you learn a lot, depending upon, whose life you're reading about. There are lots of lessons in there. I read Isaacson's biography of Jobs, which I thought was quite interesting. And I actually really liked his biography of Benjamin Franklin, who I would say is certainly one of my heroes.
At 17, he moved to America with barely any money, working odd jobs while studying at the University of Pennsylvania. To save money, he and his roommate rented a cheap house and turned it into an impromptu nightclub on weekends, charging entry fees to pay their rent. Lesson 2, find opportunities where others see obstacles. Musk didn't wait for the perfect moment, he created it. He knew that America was the best place to build tech companies, so he found a way to get there.
I remember thinking and saying that America is where great things are possible, more than any other country in the world. It's a little cliche, but it's true. America is the land of opportunity.
And once he got there, he thought outside the box.
I still had my core programming skills, so I was able to write the software needed for the first company.
If you want to build wealth, put yourself in an environment where opportunities are abundant. Surround yourself with the right people, in the right place, at the right time.
There does seem to be like a time for particular technologies when they're at a steep point in the inflection curve.
Musk's first true business success came with Zip2. Zip2 created online business directories and mapping software for newspapers at a time when the internet was still very new.
How old were you when you started this company, or what became this company?
23. In starting the company, I had nothing. I had no income source. We found that an office was actually cheaper than an apartment in Silicon Valley. So we got this dinky little office that had a leaky roof. It was just the nastiest place you can imagine.
And you lived in it too?
And I lived in it too and showered at the YMCA. This lasted for about 3 or 4 months.
Musk coded day and night, often sleeping in the office because he couldn't afford an apartment. Lesson 3, be relentless. You have to outwork your competitors and give everything you have to make sure your company succeeds.
If other people are putting in 40-hour work weeks and you're putting in 100-hour work weeks, you will achieve in 4 months what it takes them a year to achieve.
Work day and night and sleep in the office if you need to. Musk's strategy with Zip2 was selling before building. Instead of investing heavily up front, he secured deals with major newspapers like the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune. Then once those deals were in place, he built the technology to fulfill those agreements. He proved the concept first, then he scaled.
Constantly seek criticism. A well thought out critique of whatever you're doing is as valuable as gold.
Validate demand first. Don't waste years building something no one wants. Pre-sell your product. Secure contracts, customers, or deposits before you invest in full-scale development. Focus on high-value customers. Zip2 targeted newspapers, not individual consumers. allowing for larger deals. In 1999, Zip2 was sold for $307 million. Musk walked away with $22 million. Instead of retiring, he pours his money into X.com, an online banking startup that sought to disrupt traditional financial institutions. X.com had no physical branches, no cash transactions. It was digital at a time when that was unheard of.
Anything to do with software is a low capital endeavor. Software you can just write, like by yourself, and you don't need a lot of atoms, like you don't need a lot of tooling and equipment, and so it's not capital intensive. So the ability to start a company, if it's software related, is much, much easier.
Always reinvest the money you make. To rapidly scale, Musk offered customers $10 for signing up and another $10 for referring friends. This created viral growth. He harnessed the power of financial incentives to build his product. A few years later, X.com merged with a company called Confinity, which had developed a service called PayPal. By combining forces, they dominated online payments and were eventually acquired by eBay for $1.5 billion. Musk's share? $180 million. So here's another key insight. Use network effects to scale fast. Make it easy for people to invite others. PayPal grew rapidly by rewarding users for referrals. Create an indispensable service. Online payments were a nightmare before PayPal simplified them.
I think certainly being focused on something that you're confident will have high value to someone else, and just being really rigorous in making that assessment.
Leverage existing infrastructure. PayPal scaled by integrating with eBay's marketplace.
It seemed to me that there hadn't been all that much innovation in the financial sector. I thought, well, if we can combine all types of financial services in one, that would be cool. And then there was a little feature that just seemed like an obvious feature, which was the ability to transfer money from one person to another by entering a unique identifier, like an email address. That was like just a sort of a little feature, but then whenever we demonstrate the product, people wouldn't get excited about the consolidated financial services, but they would get excited about emailing money. So we started focusing our energy on that, and that really ended up being the big driver of growth.
As you can probably guess, Musk immediately reinvested the money he made with PayPal. He went all in on 3 high-risk ventures: Tesla, an electric car brand, SpaceX, a space technology company, and SolarCity, a solar energy company. Lesson number 5, go all in.
Now is the time to take risk. As you get older, your obligations increase. And once you have a family, you start taking risk not just for yourself, but for your family as well. It gets much harder to do things that might not work out. So now is the time to do that before you have those obligations. So I would encourage you to take risks now. Do something bold. You won't regret it.
Things didn't always look rosy. By 2008, everything was falling apart. SpaceX had 3 failed rocket launches, Tesla was burning cash, and SolarCity was struggling to scale. Musk faced what he later described as the worst year of my life. But instead of giving up, he doubled down.
Trying to build a company and have it succeed is like eating glass and staring into the abyss. So, I mean, what tends to happen is it's sort of quite exciting for the first several months of starting a company. And then reality sets in, things don't go as well as planned, customers aren't signing up, the technology or the product isn't working as well as you thought. And it can be very, very painful for several years. Frankly, starting a company, I would advise people to have a high pain tolerance.
Elon Musk built Tesla by leveraging existing technology rather than starting from scratch. Instead of developing battery technology independently, he invested in Tesla when it was still an early-stage startup with promising innovations in the field. He also prioritized vertical integration, allowing Tesla to control every aspect of production, from battery manufacturing to direct sales, eliminating middlemen and maximizing profits. Recognizing the importance of financial support, Musk secured billions in government loans and subsidies, which helped Tesla survive its most challenging years.
When a new company is formed and you're going up against big established companies, you're trying to build some kind of credibility, and it's incredibly important that companies are nurtured through that phase. I mean, it's just like a little sapling growing in a redwood forest. You know, you've got these giant companies. If you don't get a little bit of sunlight and nutrition, it's game over.
Most importantly, he focused on making electric cars superior to the gasoline-powered counterparts, understanding that widespread adoption would only happen if the product itself was undeniably better.
If you're entering anything where there's an existing marketplace against large entrenched competitors, then your product or service needs to be much better than theirs. It can't be a little bit better, because then you put yourself in the shoes of the consumer and they say, why would you buy it as a consumer? You're always going to buy the trusted brand unless there's a big difference.
Something that Steve Jobs was that I think was quite admirable was he was ultra product focused, like down to the little detail. He and the other people at Apple would really try hard to have these, both at a high level and a small level, these delightful things happen. So that the product was it just made you happy.
Similarly, Musk built SpaceX by dramatically lowering costs through innovation. By developing reusable rocket technology, he reduced launch expenses by more than 50%, making spaceflight more affordable. He also secured lucrative government contracts, including a $1.6 billion agreement with NASA, which provided the financial foundation for SpaceX's growth. He aggressively recruited top aerospace engineers, assembling a team capable of pushing the boundaries of space exploration.
The most important thing for creating companies is you need a concentration of talent. It's like creating think of like a world sports team or something. You really want to focus your talent on a particular area. And that's what a company is. It's a group of people that got together to create a product or service.
With Tesla stock skyrocketing and SpaceX dominating space travel, he didn't stop. He kept launching companies. Neuralink, The Boring Company, OpenAI. So how was Elon able to build multi-billion-dollar companies in so many different industries, from car manufacturing to space travel to AI? Musk runs companies like engineering projects. Instead of delegating everything to managers, he personally involves himself in product design, engineering decisions, and core technological innovations. According to Mark Andreessen, every week Musk will go to each of his companies and personally solve their biggest problem.
He has an operating method that he's developed that I would say is very unusual by modern standards. The top line thing is just this incredible devotion from the leader of the company to fully, deeply understand what the company does, and to be, completely knowledgeable about every aspect of it, and to be in the trenches and talking directly to the people who do the work, deeply understanding the issues, and being the lead problem solver in the organization.
But he's only able to do this because he understands every component of his businesses deeply. So, if you want to emulate Musk's approach, you need to start learning as much as you can about every single thing your business does. Musk focuses on first principles thinking, meaning he breaks down problems to the fundamental truths and rebuilds solutions from the ground up.
And that's also a good way to determine if something's far from its optimum. Like on rockets, for example, one could say, you could reason by analogy and say the rocket's going to cost a certain amount because that's what prior rockets have cost. Or you can say, well, what is a rocket made of? What are the material constituents? What do they weigh? What's the cost per unit mass? And that sets the limit asymptotically for what a rocket can be. So if you can figure out some creative way to rearrange those elements into a rocket shape, then you can achieve a much better outcome.
This mindset allows him to tackle vastly different industries without being constrained by conventional industry assumptions. Watch this clip where Musk talks about thinking.
Try to think of things that haven't been done before, but that would probably make the world better. And it requires a lot of mental effort to do that. So, I don't just come up with stuff willy-nilly. Occasionally, but it's rare. But the goal really have to think until your brain hurts. That's basically, if you haven't thought until your brain hurts, then you haven't tried hard enough.
Are you thinking so deeply your brain hurts? That's what you need to do if you want to perform like Elon Musk. The final component is that he dreams bigger than anyone else. He reaches for the impossible. He shoots for the stars, literally. He's made it his mission to take on the biggest, most ambitious projects that could possibly be imagined.
I really was just trying to be useful. That's the optimization. It's what can I do that would actually be useful?
If you want to achieve this kind of success, you need to dream big. Don't let anyone tell you your dream isn't possible. Elon proves that with enough perseverance and brainpower, anything is possible. We can build electric cars, we can put people on Mars, we can implant AI chips into people's brains. Get rid of your self-limiting beliefs and start thinking about how you can do things no one else has done before. It all starts with a dream.
I think the value of beauty and inspiration is very much underrated, no question. But I want to be clear, I'm not trying to be anyone's savior. That is not the... I'm just trying to think about the future and not be sad.
If you have any questions or thoughts about anything in this video, please put them in the comments below and we'll aim to answer them as soon as possible. And please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.